A government just got elected on Discord. No, this is not a joke. But before that vote even happened, protesters burned down the head of state's palace in 48 hours. Adults say Gen Z won't amount to anything. Okay, but they've toppled 3 governments, forced 4 prime ministers to resign, and ran a country from Discord. What were you doing at their age? Right now, the world's most dangerous Gen Z uprising has unfolding in Iran, and nobody knows how this ends. The Iranian Sharia regime is using live ammunition on protesters. When I started this script, hundreds of people were dead. The regime cut the internet to hide what's happening. But Starlink's free internet is keeping some footage flowing out. Despite the bullets, people aren't backing down. A woman lit her cigarette by burning Khamenei's photo. That act went viral nationwide. Now protesters are chanting death to the dictator everywhere. They're blocking major streets, driving out security forces. Sometimes they're even celebrating in liberated areas. When strangers start protecting each other in the streets, when different groups unite despite their differences, that's when protests become revolutions. So is Iran heading for a revolution? Let me show you why this might be different from everything we've seen before. But first you need to understand the pattern that brought us here. Sri Lanka, 2022, the Rajapaksa family ruled for 20 years, Gen Z ended it in weeks, their first major victory. Bangladesh, July 2024, Sheikh Hasina governed the country for 15 years. She fled by helicopter after 6 weeks of protests, over 1,400 dead. Nepal, September 2025, government banned social media, big mistake. Within 48 hours, the parliament, Supreme Court, and dozens of politicians' homes were ash. Prime Minister resigned. In every single uprising, 2 symbols appeared, fire, and the straw-hat pirate's flag from One Piece. If you don't know the manga, just know this, it's the flag of young pirates, who want to change the world. That's how Gen Z sees this fight. Now here's where it gets insane. After Nepal's government fell, the military showed up with a simple question. Okay, you won, now who governs? The protesters opened a Discord server, set up 5 candidates. 200,000 people voted online. Winner, a 73-year-old former Supreme Court judge named Sushila Karki. A country run from Discord. Let that sink in, but Nepal was practice. What's happening in Iran right now? That's the final boss. December 28, 2025, shopkeepers in Tehran's Grand Bazaar closed their stores. The Iranian money just hit rock bottom. Prices increased 6-fold in 1 year. Within 15 days, protests exploded across 173 cities. Here's what tells you the regime is panicking. They flew in 800 Iraqi mercenaries. Think about what that means. Iran's government doesn't trust its own soldiers anymore. When a regime stops trusting its own military, the clock starts ticking. When the target's getting hit, they're not random. Gen Z knows exactly what they're destroying. State TV in Isfahan, 46 years of lives, gone. Revolutionary Guard vehicles in Tehran, torched. Governors' offices in many cities captured or burned by protesters. Also the posters of the most powerful symbol, Khomeini and Khamenei, were burned everywhere. The founder of the 1979 revolution and today's supreme leader. For 46 years, these faces represented untouchable authority. Now they're literally going up in smoke. So is this actually the revolution? Here's what I'm seeing. First, look at the economy. It's not just bad, it's apocalyptic. A full-time worker earning what most Iranians dream of minus for 100 million reals takes home to $180. Rent in Tehran, $350. You can work full-time and still end up homeless. Why does this matter? Just when it's about survival, everyone joins. Rich, poor, religious, secular, hunger doesn't discriminate. That's why you're seeing Kurds, Laz, Baluchis, Turkmens and Persians march together. Ethnic lines are dissolving, and that terrifies the regime. Second, watch how the government is reacting. Complete internet blackout. They didn't even do this during the massive Mahsa Amini protests. They're charging protesters with waging war against God, and the punishment for this crime is death. They've abandoned any dialogue. The shutdown of the internet after this approach raises concerns that the regime may engage in massacres in order to survive. But this is not easy. The Iranian regime has never been weaker. Iran's regional power just collapsed. Assad's gone in Syria, Hezbollah and Hamas are crippled. Israel and the US bombed their nuclear sites and now they are threatening to do more. The regime is more isolated and vulnerable than any point in its 46-year history. But there's one detail that makes me think this is real yet. The Bazaaris, Iran's merchant class, they're the ones who started this. These aren't just shopkeepers. In 1979, the Bazaaris bankrolled the revolution that overthrew the Shah and created the Islamic Republic. Without their money and network, you never would have won. Now the revolution is eating itself. Gen Z isn't just copying the 1979 revolution, they're inverting it. In 1979, the revolution was about more religion, more control, more tradition. The Shah was seen as too Western, too secular. Now, the revolution was against all of that. Land tactics, strikes, street mobilization, burning symbols of power. But completely opposite goals. It's like watching a video fight in reverse. The generation that grew up under mandatory hijab is now burning hijabs. The kids of the Islamic Revolution are dismantling it piece by piece. History doesn't repeat, it's flowing. Let me tell you about Armin, not his real name obviously, 18 years old, living in Europe. 3 years ago, during the Mahsa Amini protests, he filmed his best friend getting shot by security forces. The video went viral, his friend survived, but barely. Last week, Armin was one of the people who set fire to a governor's office in his district. He sent the footage to a journalist with one message: "We're not afraid anymore." He realized something: this isn't impossible anymore. Here's what Gen Z already accomplished. They've shown every young person in every dictatorship that the system can fall. That's not nothing, that's everything. Kids your age in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, they're winning. They're actually beating the system. Generation X watched the Soviet Union collapse on TV. Millennials tweeted about the Arab Spring from their couches. Gen Z, they're filming their own revolutions on their phones, uploading them to TikTok, coordinating on Discord. The phone-addicted generation is using those phones to topple dictators. Nepal fell, Bangladesh fell, Sri Lanka fell, Iran is burning. Bloomberg's model says these countries are next in 2026. Ethiopia, Angola, Guatemala, Malaysia, Turkey. So here's my question: where do you think the next flames appear? Drop your prediction in the comments. If there are major updates, I'll post them. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because right now you're not just watching YouTube. You're watching history get written in real time.
Oh